is today's question is that should India should India have a bad bank, right? Should India have a bad bank? This is the question, right? The question is, you can say, important question, and it is in the news nowadays, right? The idea of the bad bank, right? So first of all, you must know the concept of the bad bank. Though, beta, you should not open your question with this meaning of the bad bank, right? You should open your answer with, you can say, and with a line that should India have a bad bank or not, right? So I will tell you that how you will open your answer, right? But still, because so that you may be able to, you can say, understand properly what I am going to say in the next few minutes or hour, you can say. So I would first tell you that what is bad bank, right? So I would first tell you. So the idea behind the, you can say, right, bad bank. Basically, the concept of the bad bank arises from the problem of the non-performing assets of Indian banks. Okay, so idea of bad bank comes from the accumulated burden of NPAs, means non-performing assets of Indian banks, right? NPAs of Indian banks. So the idea comes from there, right? So you can say few years back, there was another term, that is the asset reconstruction companies, right? That is the asset reconstruction companies, abbreviated. This becomes the ARC, right? Asset reconstruction companies. So when we abbreviate it, we write it as the, we can say, ARC, right? So beta, basically we can say the idea of the ARC was that there will be asset reconstruction companies in the market. Was there will be asset reconstruction companies. There will be asset reconstruction companies in the financial market, and yes, there will be asset reconstruction companies in the financial market, which will purchase the NPAs of banks, okay? and will recover the loans, and will recover stuff, NPAs. NPAs means loans, right? Will recover the loans and make profit. So that was the basic purpose behind the NPAs. ARCs, right? And the benefit behind the ARCs was that you can say through this scheme, banks could get rid of the loan recovery function, right? Loan recovery function which is not the core banking function, and that will you can say provide more, you can say that will provide more capacity to the banking officials or banking personnel, we can say, to focus on their core banking activities, and क्या था कि the balance sheets of the banks would clean up that way, right? Would clean up that way. So this was the basic purpose behind the alliance of the asset reconstruction companies, right? So this bad bank is also basically an asset reconstruction company. Bad bank is also known as will also be bad bank if established. We can write here if established, right? Would also be an asset reconstruction company, right? But it will be in public sector, right? But it will be in public sector, right? But it will be in public sector. This will be the difference, right? So this will also be, you can say the same thing, right, as it was there, right? But the only difference that it will be in the, we can say, right, that it will be in the public sector, not in the, you can say, private sector, right? So that is why some people used to say it. That is why it is known as it is known with another name, which is called the PAR, PARA, para. Okay. So para means public sector asset rehabilitation agency, right? So para means public sector asset rehabilitation company. So this is one and the same thing, right? Public sector asset rehabilitation company, agency. So this is known with this name also. So para means this, right? Para means this, right? So in a very simple language, we can say that there will be a bank which will purchase the NPAs from the other banks, from the commercial banks and from other financial institutions at a price determined by its own self, right? At a price determined by itself, and this way the commercial banks and financial institutions will get rid of their, we can say, NPAs, right? And this way the liquidity of the banks can also be, you can say, improved. So basic idea behind this is that, right? So banking industry is getting sick due to the ever increasing burden of the non-performing assets, right? So therefore there are various, you can say, ideas floating in the market that what can be done to get the banks rid of the non-performing asset. And one idea is this, you can say, establishment of a bad bank, which which will, you can say, purchase the assets from the good banks, purchase the non-performing assets from the good banks, and that will focus on the recovery only. Okay, the bad bank will have, you can say, professionals who would be able to, you can say, indulge in that business, right? Who would be able to uh, do that business successfully, and the good banks will, you can say, be spared to focus on the, you can say, its core, its fundamental banking activities. So this is the basic purpose. Do you understand this? That what is bad bank?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir means
Anything?
it's sir means once also you have told that their main purpose is to recover the loans, etc.
To purchase the non-performing assets from the banks and then to recover.
Then to recover. Then sir
Yes.
means these banks would not do other functions that other
No,
general
no,
banks are
no,
doing.
no, 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 no. Normal banking functions will not be done by these banks.
Okay, sir. Sir, that's why the names are this name is given.
Basically, bad means they are going to purchase the, the bad bank is going to purchase the bad assets of the commercial banks. That is why the name is given bad bank.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so beta, its main business will be that only. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Okay. Nishank, you want to ask something, I think.
Yes sir, yes sir. Sir, मतलब अगर बैड बैंक सेटअप कर देता है गवर्नमेंट, तो सर
Yes.
व्हाट इज द नीड ऑफ बैड बैंक? मतलब सर एसिड रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज भी तो वही काम कर रही हैं, और अगर गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल भी वो काम करेंगे, या अगर लोन लेने में फिर भी उनको दिक्कत हुई, तो सर फिर तो नुकसान गवर्नमेंट को ही होगा सर। एआरसी ज्यादा बेनिफिशियल है, उसमें तो सर प्राइवेट को फिर भी नुकसान होता है।
But I'm coming to that point, right? Right. I will discuss it in the next. You can say. You can say discussion, no? Right? So we'll discuss everything, not a problem. So, is it clear up to this point? The meaning of the bad bank.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. And now we are going to enter into the answer mainly, right? So first thing is, as I already told you, you have here are basically four things in this question. One is the idea of sorry, the question is idea of bad bank. Does India need it or not? This is the question mainly, right? So how will we tackle this question? To tackle this question, we will first of all go into the introductory part, right? Introductory part of the answer. That will be there, right? And then there will be the body of the answer, right? As far as the body of the answer is concerned, in this we will discuss two important things as far as the body is concerned, right? In body, we will discuss two important things, right? So one important, one is the, you can say, in body we will discuss the pros and cons, right? One is the pros, okay, of having a bad bank. One is this, right? Pros of having a bad bank. Of having a bad bank. And second will be the cons of having a bad bank. Cons of having a bad bank. Okay, or we can say problems in establishing a bad bank. That will come into this in establishing a bad bank, right? And the third thing is, the fourth is the, that will be the conclusion, right? That will be the concluding part. So this way we will, you can say, write the answer, right? Concluding part. Okay. Better my strategy of you can say guiding my students about the answer writing is quite different from the, you can say, standard strategy which is used by the various teachers. So my strategy is that usually you are told that you can say first in introduction, right? I'm also telling you that we will start with the introduction. But where is the difference here? Now, what type of introduction should be? What should be there in introduction, right? What type of introduction should be? This is the important question. Okay? Should be. So, if your introduction is not good, then you can say the examiner will become confused. Will get the impression that you don't have the, you can say, appropriate clarity, or you don't have the right approach that how to tackle the, you can say, things, right? So this is also, and you can say, art, right? So what should be there in introduction? Please tell me. Kamal, what should be there in introduction?
ਸਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੈਡ ਬੈਂਕ ਦੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਆਈਡੀਆ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸ ਦਾਂਗੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਉਂ, ਫਿਰ ਇਹਦੀ ਨੈਸੈਸਰੀ ਦੱਸ ਦਾਂਗੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ।
Okay. So Simran, what should be the what should be there in this introductory part? Yes, tell me.
ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਮਲ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਾਂਗੇ ਵੀ ਇਹਦੀ ਨੀਡ ਕੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਵੀ what the bad bank is.
Okay.
ਇਹਦੀ ਨੀਡ ਕੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੂੰਗੀ ਵੀ ਇਹਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਕਿਉਂ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ।
Okay.
ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਦੱਸ ਕੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੁਰ ਪਾਂਗੇ। ਹਾਂਜੀ।
Okay, right. Nishank.
सर बेसिकली इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन। सर यहाँ पे सर जैसे डिस्कशन की बात है तो सर पहले मेरा आंसर यस या नो से स्टार्ट होगा, आइदर आई एग्री और नॉट।
Okay, right. Paramjeet.
ਸਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿ ਬੈਡ ਬੈਂਕ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਬੈਡ ਬੈਂਕ ਦਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਦੱਸ ਕੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਆਪਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਾਨ ਪਰਫਾਰਮਿੰਗ ਐਸੈਟਸ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਂਕਿੰਗ ਸੈਕਟਰ 'ਚ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਪ੍ਰਵੇਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਕੰਸੈਂਟ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਯੈਸ ਔਰ ਨੋ, ਕਿ ਇਹਦੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗ ਇਹ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਮੈਜ਼ਰ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ।
ਓਕੇ ਗੁਰਸਿਮਰਨ ਬੇਟਾ।
ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਕਟਰੀ ਪਾਰਟ ਲਿਖਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੰਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਸਮਝਾਂਗੇ, ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਵੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਵੀ ਇਹਦੀ ਨੀਡ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਕਟਰੀ ਪਾਰਟ ਦੱਸ ਕੇ ਸਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਨਸਰ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ।
ਓਕੇ ਗੌਰਵ, would you tell me? Okay, Akshaj beta. Imran. ਸੁਖਚੈਨ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਰ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਰ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਕਸ਼ਨ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਲਿਖਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਿਊਜ਼ 'ਚ ਕਿਉਂ ਆਈ ਗੱਲ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੈਡ ਬੈਂਕਸ ਦੀ ਜੀ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਸਮਝਾ ਦਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਟੈਮ ਸਿਨੈਰੀਓ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਕਸ਼ਨ।
ਓਕੇ ਰਾਈਟ ਸੋ ਬੇਟਾ, ਫਸਟ ਆਫ ਆਲ I told you that the idea of starting the introduction with the definition of bad bank, that is not a good idea, right? So idea of starting the question, starting the introduction, right? Starting the introduction with the definition or meaning of, with the meaning of bad bank is not good. First thing, right? So those students who are saying that we will start it with this, that is a wrong approach. I don't recommend that, right? Your personal opinion may suggest you to go for that, or your personal experiences, but I don't suggest you. Yeah. And second thing, some students were talking that we will, you can say, tell the need of the bed bank, right? Tell the need of the bed bank in the beginning, right? And then move on the, definition of the bed bank. Definition of bed bank data. This idea is also not good according to my opinion, right? So I reject both these ideas. Okay, right? So my approach, you can say, guides me to act in a different way, right? So the different way which I'm going to tell you, I think Nishant has, you can say, spoken on that, right? So I have already told you, discussed in a class many times that first thing is that hit the bullseye directly. Hit the bullseye directly, right? Hit the bullseye directly. So better understand the, right, read the mind of the examiner. First thing is that. That is the most important thing. Spend, you can say, a few seconds on reading the mind of the examiner through the question. That is important, right? So first thing which is important is read the mind of examiner. First thing is that I'm telling you. Okay? Read the mind of examiner and his purpose, right? Examiner and his purpose of asking the question. And his purpose of asking the question. Asking the question, right? And convey it in introductory lines. In introductory lines that you understand well. That you understand well what the examiner, right? You can say what the examiner wants to judge in you, or what is the requirement of the examiner. What is the requirement of the examiner? Requirement of the examiner, right? So first thing is that. That is the most important thing. If I am asking you something and you are not able to interpret my, you can say, question properly, then you would not be able to answer it properly, right? So never beat about the bush. That is not going to give you any reward in the examination, right? That is the wastage of your efforts. So I am spending little more time today on this so that your approach may be refined, right? So these two things are important. Reading the mind of the examiner and convey him that, yes, I know what you want to, or what is your requirement. Yes, I know. So spend time on that, right? So that means in the introduction, right? You need to give the, right? You need to give the, we can say, you need to give the crux of your, yeah, right? Crux of the body, and then explain the introduction in the body. Explain the introductory part in the body. So this is that thing, part in the body, right? Explain the introductory part in the body, right? So beta, this is the main thing, right? So this is there, right? Let's suppose if somebody asks you that what is the importance of importance of river Chenab, okay, for India. Let's suppose somebody asks you a question, and you start your answer writing that Chenab is a river. Chenab is a river. That is very much clear. Okay, that examiner has already, you can say, mentioned in the question itself. Chenab is a river. The question is, what is the importance of river Chenab for India? So you have to hit the bullseye directly. That I know this is that, right? So like that you have to answer, right? Right, beta. So beta, try to write this answer also. Okay. So I would like to see that you can say how will you you can say right, organize your answer, right? Let's suppose this is very simple answer will be there. Okay, write the importance of river Chenab for India. Let's suppose. Okay, try to write this answer. Right, river Chenab for India. This is very simple, though, but I would like to check your strategy. Yes, Gursimran, what do you want to ask?
ਸਰ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਆਨਸਰ ਲਿਖਣਾ ਵੀ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮੀਨਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਉਹ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਸਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਬੈਡ ਬੈਂਕ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਮਤਲਬ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਗਲਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਫਿਰ
ਬੇਟਾ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮੀਨਰ ਨੇ see beta, I am telling you the examiner has already mentioned कि should India have a bad bank, है ना? It means examiner is knowing. Okay, let's suppose I come to you and ask okay, Gursimran, okay, do you want to have an apple, है ना? And what would be your answer, yes or no, है ना? If you start telling me, है ना, if you start telling me कि apple is a fruit, है ना, which is grown in this and this area, okay, and it is very, you can say, मतलब good type of fruit, है ना, and मतलब it has this and this मतलब nutritious value, okay, and after that, है ना, if you want to ask yes, I need apple, है ना, then does it make any sense, beta? Right? So right. So in the following lines, you can say mention it in one sentence maximum, right? No need to give more space in the context of this question to the meaning of the bad bank, right? So this is there in the introduction. You need to give the crux of the body and then this, right? So beta, in this particular question, right, and then you have to elaborate the introduction in the body, right, and then you have to conclude that. So this is the you can say strategy in short, which I am telling you. So first hit the bullseye, right? So beta, we will like to we will write its introduction in this way. Introduction. How will we start the introduction of this answer, right? So in introduction, we will see that the idea of bad bank, in India is in news these days, right? There are opinions both in its favor and against, right? Both in its favor and we can say against. Okay. Recently a proposal has been submitted to the government and RBI. Okay? आपने वहाँ abbreviation नहीं use करनी, राइट, स्टैंडर्ड एब्रीविएशन, जैसे आप आरबीआई यूज कर सकते हो, गवर्नमेंट को पूरा लिखना है, ठीक है, has been submitted to the government and RBI for the establishment of right, for the establishment of a bad bank in India, for the establishment of a bad bank in India, a bad bank in India, okay, but both the government and the RBI are reluctant, right? Are reluctant to, right? Are reluctant to go for the establishment of a bad bank, right? Establishment of a bad bank. Okay. So earlier also, the idea was floated in 2017, but the government dropped it. In 2018. Dropped it in 2018, right? So in this whole context, yeah, my opinion is that in the present scenario, right, in the present, you can see fiscal and infrastructural scenario, right, infrastructural scenario, right, India should avoid from setting up a new bad bank, okay, for the reasons explained later in this, in the answer, right? Later in the answer, right? For the reasons later in the answer, later in the answer, right? So this is the basically introduction. The idea of bad bank in India is in news these days. There are opinions both in its favor and against. Recently, a proposal have been submitted to the government and RBI for the establishment of the bad bank by the Indian Banks Association, IBA. But both the government and the RBI are reluctant to go for the establishment of a bad bank. Earlier also, the idea was floated in 2017, but the government dropped it in 2018. In this whole context, my opinion is that in the present fiscal and infrastructural scenario, India should avoid from setting up a new bad bank, right? For the reasons explained later in the answer. For the reasons explained later in the answer, right? Or after discussing the pros, you can write that way also. For the reasons discussing, right? So this is the body. You can say this is the introductory part of the answers, right? So any suggestion from your side, please tell me if you have any suggestion, because we are you can say working in a democratic style with you can say participatory approach, right? If you have any suggestion, you can come out. Yes, please tell me. Hello.
Sir, बहुत बढ़िया लिखा जी, ठीक है जी, ओके है.
Anybody else? Nishant, do you want to say something?
No sir, it's pretty good. सर बस एक चीज है कि अगर सर मैं इसके अगेंस्ट जाता गवर्नमेंट वाले डिसीजन के, गवर्नमेंट इसके रिलेक्टेंट थी, तो सर मैं ट्रांजिशन वर्ड वगैरह यूज कर देता.
Yes. Okay. Is it okay? right.
हाँ जी
So
हाँ जी सर
so
ठीक है
so I think it would be clear to you that how to start the answer of this type.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, so no need to, you can say, give space to the definition of the bad bank, right? That's not required. That is a conventional approach, you can say. Okay, okay. If there is question about this, should India have a bad bank? So first explain that, you can say what is bad bank, what is NBA, what is this, and then come on the, you can say, main thing, right? So that is not good. Because the very important thing to be noted is that there it would be mentioned that answer the question, where it would be mentioned that answer the question in not more than 200 words. In not more than 200 words. Let's suppose this is written here, right? So
yes
that
sir then
means
it's natural we have to
that
just
means
be precise only
that means you have to sum up your answer, okay, in, you can say, maximum 200 words. Okay, you can say 5-10% can be more, but keep it, try to keep it within this limit, right? So if you will start discussing the bad bank, NPA, what is that, and all these things, then your answer will be too lengthy, right? And there will be problem to you, right? So that is why okay, move strategically. That is important, right? So now,
excuse me sir
because yes,
ਸਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਐਸੇ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਨਵੈਨਸ਼ਨਲ ਆਨਸਰਸ ਹੀ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ
yes, I
ਸਰ
know.
ਉਸ ਚੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ ਆਉਣ ਚ ਵੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਥੋੜਾ
Yes, I know. That is why I think this is the platform to come out of those things, right? So
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਰ
so
ਸਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਐਸੇ ਲਿਖਾਂਗੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਤੇ ਸਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਦਾ ਕਨਵੈਨਸ਼ਨਲ ਵੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੱਖ
yes,
ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ
yes, because there you can see the word length is about 1200 words, no?
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਸਕੋਪ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਨੀਡ
Yes,
ਪਰਪਸ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਦੱਸਣ ਦਾ
yes. So word count is that much. So that is why you can write it there, and
Yes,
that
sir.
is why if you want to clear the civil services examination, then you can say start thinking out of the box.
ਜੀ ਸਰ
Right? So you are, you can say, in the habit of thinking in the conventional style. So come out of the box now, right? Be creative. You can say innovative. Always try to find something new,
ਜੀ
right? So that will help you a lot in your answer writing thing.
yes
So
sir
with that,
good sir
this is the basic thing, introductory part, right? So with that, now though you can say this will not be a part of this answer, right? But I will explain. I'm writing here, though this is not a part of this answer, right? But I will explain. But I will explain certain terms before going further, right? Before going further. Right? So beta, you are not supposed to write it in your answer, right? So this is additional thing. Being a teacher, this is my duty to make you clear about the various terms which we are going to use here. So that is why I am mentioning it, you can say here now, right? So the better thing is, first of all, I would like to tell you about the NPA, because the whole story is running around the NPA. So NPA is the main, you can say, term in this, right? So main problem is that of the NPAs. So first of all, you must be clear about, you can say, NPAs, that what is the meaning of the, we can say, NPA, right? So the NPAs, what is the NPA? NPA, non-performing assets. Non-performing assets are the loans of the banks. The loans given by banks are the loans given by banks. Given by banks Yeah, loans given by banks, loans or advances given by bank. You can write advances here also. Loans or advances given by bank, given by the bank. So for which the principal amount, and the interest right, interest remained, you can say unpaid, or you can write due here, due, right, for a period of 90 days, so that asset will become empty, right? So first thing, you must know that your liability is bank's, you can say, asset, right? If you have taken a loan from the bank, then that is your liability and that will be the asset of the bank, right? So remained unpaid due for a period of 90 days. This is the thing, one thing. Okay. So next point in this is that banks are required to, right? Banks are required to classify NPAs into three categories, right? So banks are required to classify NPAs into three categories. You can say three categories are. Number one is, we can say the substandard assets. Right? Substandard assets. And the second category is, we can say, that is the doubtful assets. This is the second category. Doubtful assets. And the third category is about the, you can say, lost assets, or that is the lost assets, right? Lost assets or loss assets, right? Lost assets. So beta, if we talk about the, you can say, substandard asset, right? So a substandard asset, we can say, if you can say a loan or advance remains NPA, loan or advance remains NPA for equal to, or for, you can say, 12 months or less. For 12 months or less, right? Equal to or less than 12 months. So that asset is known as the substandard asset. It means an NPA, first it will be substandard asset, right? And then next is doubtful asset, right? Doubtful asset means if an NPA remains substandard asset for 12 months. If an NPA remains substandard asset for 12 months, right? If it remains substandard assets for 12 months, it becomes a doubtful asset, right? It becomes a doubtful assets, right? And lost assets are those assets which are uncollectible. Lost assets are those assets which are uncollectible, right? So those assets are known as the lost assets, right? So according to the rules, every bank has to show its NPA in its balance sheet in these three, you can say, categories, right? substandard assets, doubtful assets, and lost assets, right? So categorization is must, so that there should be transparency, right? And those who are dealing with the banks should be clear about the performance of the banks, right? So that is why this is important. So is it clear to you up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, beta. So now I am giving you one more assignment which you will do from your home, right? That assignment is what is NPA, right? What is NPA? Okay. How does it? Yes. How does it affect the? How does it affect the economy? This is very simple. Does it affect the economy? Right? This is the one thing, right? You need to write this also. And the second assignment is that what are the various sources of NPAs in India? Sources of NPAs in India, right? And what are the various measures? And what are the various measures taken by the government of India, to deal with the problem, right? So what are the various measures which have been taken by the government of India to deal with the problem, right? So this is the second thing. And third assignment I can give you from this only, because we require to tackle it from the various angles, right? Third is, what is the status of India among the other nations, of the world, in terms of NPAs, right? And NPAs, right? Suggest strategy to get rid of the NPA problem, right? NPA problem. So this is the third thing, right? So these are the three questions, you can say, right? Last two questions are quite important, right? So you try to at least collect the information about these things, right? So if there will be any problem, you can ask me, right? So this is the point. So I have explained you that what is this, you can say NPA, what is this NPA, right? So this is the first thing which you can say we have explained. And second important thing which I will explain here, that is the asset reconstruction company. You should know about that also. Asset reconstruction company, right? Which is known as the ARC. Right? So asset reconstruction company is known as the ARC, right? So now we will, you can say, discuss about this, that asset reconstruction company क्या होती है, okay? इसका जो meaning है, that we will discuss, right? So we will discuss that you can say asset reconstruction company, ARC, right? ARC, asset reconstruction company, right? Is formed under the SARFAESI Act, right? SARFAESI Act of 2002. This act was enacted in 2002. I'm just giving you its, you can say, elaboration of the SARFAESI. 2002, right? To help 2002 to help, right? Banks, manage and to help banks manage and we can say recover their manage and recover their bad loans, manage and recover their bad loans. So this was the purpose, right? So as far as this SURFICE Act is concerned, right? Let me elaborate this. So SURFICE Act means securitization, and reconstruction of right, financial assets, reconstruction of financial assets, right, and enactment of Securities Interest Act and enactment of Securities Interest Act, right, 2002. This is the meaning of the enactment of Security Interest Act 2002. So this is the meaning of this. This is the elaboration of this SURFICE. Right. So I think you must have noted this. So I'm going to delete it now. Have you noted it down?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So beta, this is the SURFICE Act, right? So now we are moving ahead. That is, you can say, according to the RBI, number one, this is important to note here. An ARC cannot buy bad loans, of, you can say, bad loans of banks, right? Of banks or financial institutions, banks or financial institutions which are the sponsors, or lenders to ARC, or part of the same group, right? Or part of the same. What does this mean? This means that let's suppose State Bank of India is a very big bank in India, right? Let's suppose State Bank has, you can say, incorporated its own, let's suppose SBI, Asset Reconstruction Company, right? And State Bank is selling all of its bad loans to this company, which is owned by the State Bank of India. So RBI said that no, this is not possible, right? So why is this not possible? This is to bring, this has been, you can say, this you can say rule has been formed by the RBI, right? So this is to bring transparency, at least transparency in this, and to ensure that there is the actual sale of bad assets, okay, and to stop, right, and to stop, you can say, the misuse of ARCs by banks, okay, as a tool to evergreen their assets, their balance sheets, right? So beta, banks can do this, right, to show their better financial performance, the banks may float their own asset reconstruction company and may transfer their entire assets, you can say bad assets, to their own reconstruction company, and this way they could clean their balance sheets, keep their balance sheets clean and you can say green, right? So beta, that is why to bring the transparency and to check this condition has been, you can say, made mandatory by the RBI. This is the one point. And the second point is that and we can say ARC has to pay down payment, right? Equivalent to 15%, as equivalent to 15% for purchasing NPA from a bank. This is the second condition, that let's suppose there is a, you can say, an NPA of rupees 100 crore, right? Which some asset reconstruction company is going to purchase from the bank, then that asset reconstruction company must have to pay rupees 15 crore of the means 15% of the total amount, right? 15 crore as a down payment to the bank, right? And rest of the payment can be deferred according to the agreement, but the 15% down payment is must, right? So previously this was not there. These, you can say, RBI became strict later on when it saw that ARCs are being misused by the, you can say, banks to keep their balance sheets clean. And second number, you can say a nexus is becoming between the higher officials of the banks and the owners of the, you can say, asset reconstruction companies. Right, they purchase the assets from a bank at very low price, right? And then they, you can say, sell it. They, you can say, recover much higher amount from that loan, right? And in this way, they were earning the huge profits, and the banks were running into losses, right? So, beta, a case came there in this, you can say, this year only in 2020, right? I'm just telling you, there was one, you can say, one Jhabua power plant that is in Madhya Pradesh, right? In Madhya Pradesh, right? And that power plant was under the financial stress because it's, you can say, it was under the debt of rupees 5,000 crore. Right, its liabilities were equal to this. So that is why they approached, you can say, for the insolvency, right? That we want to liquidation, you can say, liquidation of the, they approached for the liquidation, right? And in the liquidation process, you can say, the bids were invited for the purchase of this, you can say, for the purchase of this Jhabua power plant, right? And Peter, what happened there? This is very surprising that there were two bidders. One bidder was NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation, right? So National Thermal Corporation gives the bid for rupees 1,900 crore to purchase this power plant, right? And beta, the second was the Adani Group. Okay, Adani Group, right? So Adani Group offered the price of rupees 750 crore only, right? And let's suppose if the, you can say, NTPC could not have come forward, right, in this race, in this competition. So then there was Adani Group only, okay? And then the, you can say, bank could have, then the lenders of the Jhabua power plant could have right? You can say negotiated with the, you can say this, we can say Adani Group, and would have you can say sold it to this Adani Group for such a less amount, right? So because this way, this is becoming, you can say a loss-making venture for the government, for the banks, right? Do you understand what was happening there?
Yes, sir.
राइट एक 1900 करोड़ का जो एनटीपीसी लेने को तैयार है, अगर एनटीपीसी ना आता आगे, इट मींस उसकी 1900 करोड़ तो वैल्यू है, बिकॉज वन बायर इज देयर फॉर दिस अमाउंट, राइट?
At least somebody is there in the competition.
अगर yes, अगर ये ना आता आगे तो क्या होना था, मतलब एक प्राइवेट प्लेयर को बैंक ने 750 करोड़ में इसको बेच देना था, ठीक है? और लॉस किसको होना था? बैंक को। और इतना ज्यादा बेनिफिट, अगर मान लीजिए हम इसकी वैल्यू 1900 करोड़ ही मान लेते हैं, तो देन क्या होना था, मतलब अडानी ग्रुप को इसका बेनिफिट कितना हो गया? 1200 करोड़ एटलीस्ट। out of this you can see deal only. So beta, that is why, right, RBI basically is doing this, right? So beta, I am coming on the 15% point. 15% is better due to this data, so that right, so that you can say we can say number one is, when the margin money will be higher, then what will happen? Only the serious buyers will come forward, right? Only the serious buyers will come forward. Buyers will come forward, and so far will come forward, right? So far, what has been seen in this, that you can say, out of the total assets purchased by the asset reconstruction companies, at present there are 29 asset reconstruction companies in India. And out of the total assets purchased by those asset reconstruction companies, only 10% of the bad loans has been recovered by them. Okay, has been recovered by them. They are running, so you can say, slow. Okay, they are running so slow, right? So that those assets reconstruction companies which have the financial capacity, which have the capacity to manage at least these, you can say, units for the time being till those are not being sold, should come forward, right? And no, in this case, the total NPAs ka 10% dena, right? In this case, it would be 700 crore, which is also offered by the Adani's. So what I'm not getting you, Mr. Nishank, tell me.
सर ये वाला जो केस है सर, झबुआ पावर प्लांट वाला, सर अगर इसमें 15% अगर सर वो लगा भी रखा है सर, एआरसी को पे करना पड़ेगा जितना, तो सर अडानी ग्रुप अगर खरीदते भी हैं तो सर 15% 750 करोड़ ही घटता है। तो सर उसके बाद अगर वो ऐसा एग्रीमेंट कर लें कि बस यही पे करना है, इसके बाद कोई पे ही नहीं करना, तो सर उसके बाद फिर एनटीपीसी के आने का फायदा ही क्या होगा?
नहीं बेटा, I am just telling you, बेटा, this is only the, you can say, down payment. 15% is only the down payment, and the rest of the amount will be paid later on.
ओके सर, मतलब मिनिमम 750 करोड़ तो होगा ही, उससे ऊपर इससे नीचे कोई नहीं लगा सकता।
यस बेटा, अगर मान लीजिए 5000 करोड़ है, अगर ठीक है, अगर टोटल लायबिलिटी अगर 5000 करोड़ है, तो मतलब एनपीए अगर इतना है 5000 करोड़ का जो बैंक को पैसा देना है ना, तो फिर उसका 15% ही इतना बनता है।
ओके सर, मिनिमम बीडी वो होगी फिर।
Yes, minimum. So beta, this is the main about the asset reconstruction company. Is it clear to you about the asset reconstruction company?
Right? Yes, sir.
So what is the problem with these asset reconstruction companies as on today, right? So I think your question has been answered, Nishank, which you told earlier. Okay.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. So beta, then after asset reconstruction company, there is one more thing which we will discuss, which we will use one more term, that is the IBC 2016, right? IBC 2016, little about this also, then we will enter into the, you can say, this topic, right? because this topic is so important and very big topic. So that is why I think it may consume today's entire lecture. Please don't mind, right? So, right. So this is there, IBC 2016. So that as far as IBC is concerned, IBC means insolvency and bankruptcy code. Insolvency and bankruptcy code. And bankruptcy code. Right? And bankruptcy code 2016. Right? 2016. So this is an important step towards this. Right? So first of all, important to know here is that this code applies to, it applies to individuals, corporates, partnerships, and individuals, all the three, right? It applies to all the three. Corporates, right? And individuals, partnerships and individuals. It applies to all the three. Right? So, individuals. So this is a good question for the preliminary examination, right? And individuals also, right? So this is basically a bankruptcy law in India, right? This is basically a bankruptcy law in India. This is a bankruptcy law in India. This is a bankruptcy law in India, right? Law in India, which consolidates the, which you can say consolidates the, which consolidates the existing, which consolidates the existing framework into a, we can say single law for insolvency and bankruptcy. Insolvency and bankruptcy. Into insolvency and bankruptcy. It provides a, next point is that it provides a one-point solution. It provides a one-point solution. It provides a one-point solution, right? For resolving, you can say insolvencies. For resolving insolvencies, right? Insolvencies. It provides a time-bound. Let's say it provides time-bound. It provides a time-bound, right? It provides time-bound process to resolve, time-bound process to resolve insolvency, okay? Either you can say on the either of the debtor or creditor, either of the debtor or creditor can initiate the insolvency proceedings, right? Can initiate the insolvency proceedings means दोनों में से कोई भी start कर सकता है insolvency proceedings or the recovery proceedings, right? Under the IBC, right? Insolvency and bankruptcy code under the IBC, right? So this is there. So I have used one thing here that it is time bound. As far as the time bound is concerned, for companies with turnover, of with turnover of, we can say, up to 1 crore, with turnover of up to 1 crore, right? So the time for the resolution of the entire bankruptcy proceedings, that is, we can say 90 days time, and it can be extended to another 45 days. There is 90 days time, and it can be extended to another 40 days. And it can be extended to another 45 days. So 45 days, it can be extended to that, right? So for small companies, this is the time which has been given, right? I'm coming to you. I think somebody wants to ask something. I'm coming. So the next is, we can say, the next thing is that for the larger companies, the time is 180 days. For the larger companies, the time is 180 days, right? Which is extendable. उसको further extend किया जा सकता है, which is extended. So this is the time bound, right? So this is the time which is required for this, right? For the resolution of this dispute, right? So the next one more term which we will use here. Is it okay? Yes, Nishank, what do you want to ask? And I think someone else is want to ask something.
सर मेरे को ये पूछना था सर, ये जो टाइम लिमिट वाला पीरियड है कि 90 डेज विद एन एक्सटेंडेबल 45 डेज, सर ये आफ्टर उस दिन से है ना सर जिस दिन इनिशिएट किया जाएगा ये प्रोसेस?
यस यस
इंसॉल्वेंसी।
यस। और
सर इनिशिएट करने के लिए कोई टाइम थोड़ी ना है कि मतलब कब तक नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट रहता है उसके बाद इनिशिएट करना जरूरी है? वो तो सर डिपेंड करेगा ना क्रेडिटर और डेटर पे कि वो कब इनिशिएट करना चाहते हैं।
यस बेटा, वो दोनों में से कोई भी इनिशिएट कर सकता है।
ओके सर, व्हेनेवर दे वांट।
Yes, creditor can also and debtor can also initiate the process.
Right, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
बेसिकली बेटा आज से 3-4 पहले इकोनॉमिक सर्वे के अंदर ये एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इशू आया था कि देयर इज अ एग्जिट प्रॉब्लम इन यू कैन से इंडियन इकोनॉमी। एग्जिट प्रॉब्लम, what do we mean by the exit problem? Exit problem means that you can say it is too easy to enter into a venture in India, right? But it is too difficult, right? But it is too difficult to exit, right? Due to lot of, you can say, lot of legal formalities for that, right? That lot of legal formalities and other things, right? So beta, that is why the economic survey at that time mentioned that due to this, we can say, exit problem, a lot of capital of India is lying, we can say, is lying locked in the hands, you can say, in the hands of non-efficient entrepreneurs, right? Non-efficient entrepreneurs, right? So that is why, right? So you can say entrepreneurs. So better, that is why it was there that is why the exit should be made easy. The exit should be made easy to solve the problem. Exit should be made easy, right? Should be made easy to get rid right? To get rid of the problem. क्योंकि बेटा जो हमारी वो थी ना प्रॉब्लम, जिसको मैंने अभी आपको बोला है एग्जिट प्रॉब्लम, उससे बेटा क्या प्रॉब्लम होती है? नंबर 1, नेशन की कैपिटल है that is lying locked up in the, we can say, inefficient hands. This is the one problem. And the second problem was that liquidity was affected in the market. क्योंकि you can say banks were not recovering money from those, you can say, sick units, we can say, right? Financially sick units, banks were not recovering money, and that is why the banks were lacking the liquidity. If the banks are lacking the liquidity, then you can say liquidity in the whole economy will be affected, right? So beta, and the next thing, right, it planned to increase in the rate of interest, increase in the rate of interest, because the banks are facing the liquidity problem, shortage of the funds to lend, and that is why the rate of interest will be definitely higher. So that was the another problem, right? And the beta, another problem was that you can say balance sheets of the banks were affected. Balance sheets of the banks were affected due to that. Balance sheet of the banks are affected due to that. And right, the next problem is that the you can say profitability of the banks is also affected due to that, right? Profitability of banks, right? Profitability of banks, right? And that was also, you can say, leading to higher fiscal burden on the government, higher fiscal burden on the government, right? Fiscal burden on the government, higher fiscal burden on the government. How higher fiscal burden on the government? Because on one side, right, due to the poor profitability of banks, due to the poor profitability of banks, we can say, of banks, right? The dividend income to the government from banks, okay, is also reducing, right? Is also reducing. And on the other hand, you can say to maintain its, you can say, functions, the government has to borrow from the, you can say, other sources, and that is leading to increase in the public debt, right? That is leading to increase in the we can say higher fiscal deficit. First thing is that higher fiscal deficit. First thing is that deficit, right? And higher fiscal deficit, and you can say increase in public debt, right? Which is not good for the country, right? And next thing is that beta, it is also, you can say, affecting the economic growth and employment in the country. It is also affecting the right. It is also affecting the economic growth and employment in the country. So this is also one of the reasons, right? Employment in the country. And the next point is that with this we can say the accumulation of the debt burden, right? Debt burden on a sick unit is piling up, and they have to be more expenditure, right? To keep it maintained till the you can say bankruptcy procedures are not resolved, till the bankruptcy or liquidation procedures are not resolved, right? So till those are not resolved, right? Till the bankruptcy till the bankruptcy proceedings are not resolved, till the bankruptcy case is not resolved. Bankruptcy case is not resolved. So because this is the entire loss, right? Till the bankruptcy cases. So because this is the whole loss of the, you can say, exit problem, right? And that is why it was necessary to make it time bound. One thing, And second number, it was necessary that you can say bankruptcy proceedings will be initiated on the, you can say, request of the debtor also, right? On the, you can say, side of the debtor also. Is it okay? Clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So beta, one more question has been discussed today, that what is the exact problem of Indian economy, right? And what are its various economic consequences? Okay. What is the exact problem of Indian economy and how does it affect the economy? Right. So next question is important, and another important question: what is the exit problem? Exit problem of Indian economy. Exit problem of Indian economy, and how does it affect the economy? How does it affect the economy? Right. And the second question from this, which has emerged, that what is the right? You can say how can the speedy resolution of you can say liquidation proceedings of a financially sick corporation, financially sick company, right? Help the economy, right? So this is the second question, right? So justification for this is there, right? So IBC की क्या जरूरत थी, justification क्या है, इसको time bound करने की जरूरत क्या थी, right? So is this clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So beta, this is, and the next one small point is that NCLT. NCLT is National, you can say, Company Law Tribunal, right? NCLT is, you can say, National Company Law Tribunal. Right, National Company Law Tribunal. Okay, so beta, it is a basically National Company Law Tribunal. It was established in 2016 under the Companies Act. Under the Companies Act 2013, right? Under the Companies Act 2013, right? So it's a quasi-judicial body. It's a quasi-judicial body. It's a quasi-judicial body, right? That adjudicates issues relating to Indian companies. Issues relating to companies in India, we can say. Companies in India, right? So this is the next point, right? And next point is that it was set up on the recommendation of we can say right? Balakrishna, on the recommendation of V. Balakrishna, right? Iradi, V. Balakrishna Iradi Committee on laws relating to insolvency, relating to insolvency and winding up of companies. Insolvency and winding up of companies. Insolvency and winding up of companies, right? So beta, this is there, right? So beta, you must be in mind that you can say one thing is this, that National Company Law Tribunal has been established on the recommendation of this committee, V. Balakrishna Idati Committee. So this is important to know, right? And the second thing is that asset reconstruction companies, setting up of assets reconstruction companies was recommended by Narsimham 2 committee, right? Setting up of ARCs was recommended by the right Narsimham 2 committee report, right? Narsimham 2 committee report. So this was recommended by that Narsimham 2 committee report. So this is another important thing, right? So these are the important things which you must bear it in mind. And next thing is that beta, SAFESI Act was SAFESI, right? SAFESI Act was also enacted on the recommendation of Narsimham 2 committee, right? So this committee was constituted in 1998 and the committee gave its report in 1998. So this is the whole story, right? So ये भी याद रखना है कि नरसिम्हम कमेटी की रिकमेंडेशन पे ARC सेट हुई, नरसिम्हम कमेटी की सेटअप हुई और नरसिम्हम कमेटी की रिपोर्ट के ऊपर ही आपका SAFESI एक्ट था जो दैट वाज इनेक्टेड, राइट? सो these were you can say some terms or some important, you can say, things which were required to be discussed related with this answer, but these things were not part of the answer, right? So beta, so far we have discussed this, you can say, introductory part that I have told to you, that what type of introduction should be there, right? So there is no need to give the definition, etc., of this code, right? So now the next thing is we will go to discuss, that is beta, the pros, right? Pros. Beta, as far as the pros are concerned, first of all, we will make a, you can say, right, this type of the framework. Pros means one thing is that rising NPAs. What can be the reasons that we need a bad bank, right? What things support the establishment of a bad bank? One is the rising NPAs, right? So this is the one point. And second point is that you can say lack of professionally trained staff with banks to deal with NPAs, or bank's core function is not the loan recovery, So this is the second argument which goes in favor of the establishment of a bad bank here. This is the second thing, right? And as far as the third point is concerned, in pros, we can say that you can say liquidity point, right? Because with the higher NPAs, the liquidity of the banks will be, we can say, will be affected, right? And the next important point is that partial success of the NPAs. The next important point is that partial success of the ARCs. So that model is not successful, right, up to the, you can say, expectation. And the next thing is that we can say there is a economic slowdown. There is economic slowdown which requires more liquidity in the system, right? There is economic slowdown, right? There is economic slowdown, right? So that is the next point, better, right? And the next point can be, right, banks inability to run a stressed company, and therefore they negotiated with the private privately owned, we can say privately owned ARCs, and sell them the NPAs at a price which is considered very low. So these are the various points which goes in the favor of establishment of this, we can say, right? So the points are quite simple. NPAs are rising. Banks don't have the core function of the banks is not the recovery of loans, and moreover they don't have the professionally trained staff, and that add to the additional burden on the banks if they go for the recovery also, right? And next, liquidity of the banks. Next point, partial success of ARCs, economic slowdown, and banks inability to run a stressed company, and therefore they negotiate. उनका ये कोशिश होती है कि हम बस इससे पीछा छुड़वा लें, जल्दी जल्दी हम ये किसी को पकड़ा दें, है ना, जो हमारे एनपीएस हैं, और जो मिलता है ले लो, ठीक है, और अपनी बैलेंस शीट को आप क्लियर करो, राइट? सो ये रहता है. सो दीज आर द प्रोस, राइट? सो now we will discuss these points one by one, right? So the first point is which is here, I have mentioned here, that is the NPAs, right? Rising NPAs. This is the one topic, right? So beta, as far as the NPAs of Indian banks are concerned, first of all, NPAs of India are pretty high as compared with other comparable countries, right? So beta, on the basis of the NPAs, India ranks at the 33rd position among 100, you can say 7 countries, 137 countries, according to the report of IMF, right? So beta, आप इसको शॉर्ट कर सकते हो according to the need of the answer, right? So I'm just giving you the wholesome picture according to the IMF. So this is the important thing is here. And beta, apart from that, IMF data suggests that IMF report in 2019, which was published in February 2019, and that was the study up to, you can say, September quarter of 2018, right? And according to that IMF study, you can say that India's you can say NPA was, you can say 10.3% of its total, you can say, loans and advances, right? जो भी बैंक्स ने टोटल लोन्स एंड एडवांसेस दिए थे, राइट? सो उसका 10.3% था. तो ये जो परसेंटेज होती है, दिस इज नॉट परसेंटेज ऑफ जीडीपी, और दिस इज नॉट परसेंटेज ऑफ टोटल एसेट्स ऑफ द बैंक, राइट? दिस इज द percentage of, this is the percentage of, right, total loans and advances given by the bank, total loans and advances given by bank. So ये वो proportion होती है, percentage होती है given by bank, right? So उसमें से जो मैंने दिया total, उसमें से you can say 1/3 money है जो sorry जो 10.3% है, that has gone bad. So this is right. So this ratio in case of India, and secondly, beta we can say in case of Brazil. In case of Brazil, this ratio is 3.69. This ratio is 3.69%. And in case of South Africa, this ratio was then at 2.83%, right? And in case of, you can say, China, this ratio was again 1.75%, 7.5%. And beta, if we take the example of US, Australia, then their ratio was 0.9%, means less than 1%. So India has very high, you can say, NPA ratio, right, as compared to the various, we can say, other countries, right? And now the next important thing is that, as of, we can say, as of December 2019, India was having 9.7 lakh crore of 9.7 lakh crore of NPAs. Indian banks were having this much NPA, and it is estimated that now, you can say, during the COVID-19, right? So during the COVID-19, you can say additional, you can say 5.5 lakh NPAs will be added to this. 5 lakh crore of NPAs would be added to this. Right? So beta, according to the, we can say estimates that in the coming 2 years, India's India's NPA ratio would increase to the 18% of the total, you can say, loans and advances of the banks, right? 18% of the total loans and advances of the bank, right? And which, right? So beta, at present it is, we can say, around the 11%. So it will increase from 11% to approximately 18% according to the estimates. So beta, that means there is very high, you can say, rate of the NPAs among the Indian banks. So beta, that is why that will affect the liquidity also. That will lead to the bank failures also, right? That will lead to the more fiscal burden on the government also, right? And that will lead to the locking up of the very scarce capital into the inefficient hands also. So beta, that is why this situation compels us for some, we can say, early solution, right? So this situation compels us for some early solution, as early as possible. Solution should be there, right? Calls us for some early solution, right? To save the Indian economy and to save the Indian banking industry and to keep the faith of the public in the banking industry maintained, right? So this calls for the early solution for this purpose, right? So beta, according to, and moreover, right? And that is why from there comes the idea of the bad bank. That we can say there should be a bad bank, and that should, you can say, start working on this so that the recovery rate should be increased and the NPA rate should come down, right? So this is one thing. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes.
this is,
Yes,
so beta, this is the one point which we have discussed just now. And the second point is that you can say loan recovery and collection, that is not the core function of the banks, right? So it means that second point है that loan recovery is not the core function of the banks. Core function of the banks, and banks don't have trained professionals to deal with the situation. Trained professionals to deal with the situation, right? And this is the second thing. So as far as we can say, there are two important things from this point which emerge, we can say. The one thing which emerges is that bank's core function. One point is here, this. And the second point is that banks don't have the professionals. Second point is that lack of a professional. Banks के पास professional lack of professionals. This is the second important point, which is the lack of professionals, right? So these are the 2 points regarding this. So if we take the second point first, right? Because banks pay loans, right? Banks pay loans, and sometimes banks don't feel free. Banks could not, right, refuse loan. Sometimes banks could not refuse loans to inefficient or right, low rated persons due to the various political compulsions. Because banks are in public sector, okay, political compulsions, and moreover, banks have to meet the requirements of the priority sector lending also. Right? Priority sector lending also means गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स के अकॉर्डिंग तो प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर को लैंड करना होता है, जैसे एग्रीकल्चर वगैरह, राइट? एंड नेक्स्ट there is a compulsion for every bank to open branches in rural areas also, which are sometimes non-profitable for the bank. But according to the compulsion, they have to do this, right? And that is why the debt burden of the burden of the NPAs is piling up on the banks. The burden of NPAs is piling up on the banks. So that is why banks के ऊपर जो NPAs का burden है, that is piling up, that continuously, right? And you can say piling up, right? And you can say due to the lack of loan recovery professionals with the banks. They could not focus on loan recoveries, and that is why the loan recoveries suffer. Right? And the problem is increasing in, you can say, all dimensions. Problem is increasing in all dimensions. Okay, so this is the one line. Is it clear to everybody that banks के पास प्रोफेशनल नहीं होते कि वो डील कर सके इस चीज के साथ?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the second thing is beta that bank's core function, right? The core function of the bank is to borrow and lend. Okay, so core function of the bank is to borrow and lend and to earn profit and maintain its business, right? The core function of the bank is to collect savings. Basically, this is the function. Collect savings and you can say give advances. Collect savings and give advances, right? So this is the core function, and for this bank purpose, the banks were created for the mobilization of the savings, right? And that is why, right? Banks have to pay attention to the right core functions also, because they have to meet the various deposit targets also, to meet the various deposit targets also, and seeing the competition in the banking industry, right? In the banking industry, the banks have to pay more attention. Banks have to pay more attention on its core activities, like opening accounts. Okay, you can see collecting the savings, maximum deposit collection. So these are the primary aims of the banks. So in this case, the bank officials could not focus, you can say, whole time on the loan recovery. And in this scenario, loan recovery, okay, that takes or recovery of the bad assets, right? Loan recovery takes a backseat, and sometimes becomes secondary, and sometimes remains not that much important. Right? And so due to lack of that focus, focus nahi raha, lack of that focus, right? Lack of that focus, the rate of recovery is not satisfactory. So this is the next point, that loan recovery is not the core function of the banks. Is this point clear to you? How to explain this point? Is it clear?
Ji sir.
Okay. And the third important point is that you can say bad loans or NPAs affect the liquidity of good banks, right? So we can say that there are two types of banks. One is the bad bank and second is the good bank, right? So NPAs affect the liquidity of we can say good banks also. Good banks, उनकी liquidity effect होती है, good banks, right? And the recovery rate of good banks, and the recovery rate of good banks is slow, which affects the which affects the liquidity and balance sheets of good banks. Liquidity and balance sheets of good banks. Balance sheets of good banks. Right? Balance sheet of good banks, and that is the reason, right? So it is desirable to keep bank's balance sheet clean, right? So that is required. Because the entire country is pouring deposits. The entire country is pouring its deposits into the saving accounts of the banks, right? So because the entire country is pouring its deposits, entire country is pouring its savings, into the banks, that is there, into the banks, right? So that is why, and the judgment of the financial health, because the you can say balance sheet of an organization, reflects its fiscal health. Reflects its financial health. So that reflects its financial health. Okay, what is the type of the financial health of a bank, right? And that financial health can be judged from the balance sheet only. And if the balance sheet would not be clean, then you can say you can say a person who is studying the balance sheet can be misguided. That persons can be misguided by the balance sheet, right? Misguided by the right? क्योंकि आपकी एसेट बहुत ज़्यादा शो हो रही है, but उनकी recoverable amount तो है ही नहीं. So that is why you will think that yes, this bank is very much strong because it has so many lakhs of crores of assets, but actually those assets are bad. So that is why it is required to clean the balance sheet of the banks by transferring the various non-performing assets of the banks to the bad banker. That is why the idea of bad bank is there, and the idea of bad bank is justified due to this reason, right? And the next point which we wrote, that you can say ARCs could not succeed. ARC model could not become successful. ARC model could not become successful in India, right? ARC model couldn't become successful in India. So that is the another reason better, that this model couldn't become, you can say, and this model could not become successful, right? ARC model. So that is why, because seeing the there are at present 29, you can say, जो है asset reconstruction companies is there, right? 29 asset reconstruction companies are there, and those you can say asset reconstruction companies didn't show much, you can say, progress in the past, right? So beta you can say, according to the Chief Vigilance Commission, so the commissioner, according to their report, that you can say as far as 48 cases, right? 48 cases of sale of NPAs to you can say to asset reconstruction companies. Asset reconstruction companies were you can say found where the assets were sold, in the market to ARCs at even less than the recovery price, even less than the, we can say, recoverable price. हमें अंदाजा था जितना कि इतने की ये, you can say, less than the realizable price लिख देते हैं, realizable price, right? अब मान लीजिए ये you can say मैंने आपको पैसे दे दिए, आपने मुझे क्या दे दिया, आपने मुझे मान लीजिए गोल्ड दे दिया, ठीक है? गोल्ड के बदले लेट्स सपोज मैंने आपको 10,000 रुपीज दे दिए, राइट? तो क्या हुआ, मैंने आपकी एसेट ले ली, ठीक है, एसेट ले ली और उसके बदले मैंने आपको 10,000 रुपीज दे दी। सो अब मैंने आपके 10,000 रुपीज आपसे लेने हैं और मैंने आपको गोल्ड वापस करना है। सो लेट्स सपोज मुझे लगा कि यू आर नॉट एबल टू पे द मनी, और मैंने वो जो गोल्ड था, ठीक है, वो गोल्ड की मान लीजिए आज मार्केट वैल्यू थी 12,000, लेट्स सपोज, ठीक है, गोल्ड की मार्केट वैल्यू थी 12,000, राइट? लेकिन मैंने किसी के साथ नेगोशिएट करके, राइट, डील करके मैंने उस पर्सन को वो गोल्ड 10,000 का ही दे दिया, ठीक है? ये किसने किया, ये मेरे माइंड में आया। और इसी तरीके से बेटा जो एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी के ओनर्स एंड बैंक्स के हायर ऑफिशियल्स के बीच में कोई अंडरस्टैंडिंग बन जाती है ना, दे ट्राई टू ग्रीस देयर पाम्स and to acquire the non-performing assets at a very low price, even from the you can say realizable price of that particular asset. So that leads to losses of the banks, that leads to loss of the national exchequer and everything. And that is why it is thought that if there would be some bad banker that would solve this problem, right? That is why it is thought that it would be a bad bank there that could solve this problem, because that will be a government bank and there will be nothing happening. There will nothing happen like this, right? So this is this point. Is it clear, beta?
हाँ जी सर.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, beta. So the next point is beta economic slowdown. So economic slowdown, beta. So whenever there is economic slowdown in the country, then at that time, you need to, you can say, you need a push. A push is to be given. A push is to be given to the economy. Push is to be given to the economy, right? So that push can be either by that push can be by the public sector or by the private sector. That push can be by the public sector or by the private sector, right? And for both these sectors to invest, right? So there is need for liquidity, right? Because we see that, right? Because you can say it is important to see here that credit needs increase with the economic expansion. Credit needs increase with the you can say economic expansion or increase in the GDP growth rate. Right? So ये बेटा बढ़ता है. Yeah, so credit needs increase with this. Is it okay? So beta, according to the standard thumb rule, right, with 1% increase in GDP, increase in GDP, the credit requirements, the credit demand in market increases by about 2 to 2.5%. सो इतनी ज़्यादा क्रेडिट डिमांड पड़ती है। सो हम तो सोचते हैं कि हमें वी नीड द GDP right to take to the, you can say, GDP growth rate to, you can say, double digits। तो सोचते हैं कि हम 10% के क्रॉस लेके जाएंगे, ठीक है। we need this double digit, right? So बेटा if we want to right increase on, or you can say this GDP growth rate to the double digit scale, so then obviously there will be too much requirement of the credit, right? Too much need of the credit, right? Too much need of the credit, right? But in the present scenario, right, neither the government is able to, you can say, give the proper fiscal stimulus, you can say, to the economy, because the government's financial health is also not well. We are seeing everything, and with a fiscal stimulus by the government would mean that, but what would mean that, you can say, more public deficit, right? Because it is not possible to even increase the taxes also in this period, right, when the businesses are not working well. So better, that is why it means the government has to spend, right? If the government spends to raise the inflation to the to raise the GDP growth to, you can say, this level, then there will be a very high much demand for credit, right? And that demand for credit, or we can say, we need to give the fiscal stimulus to the economy to bring it out of the slowdown, right? And the fiscal stimulus, the government is not in position to give such a, you can say, big size of fiscal stimulus. So that is why we can more depend on the private investments, right? And for the private investments, you can say, liquidity position needs to be better, right? And the liquidity positions of the banks cannot improve unless and until, you can say, the NPAs are cleared, right? So that is why for that clearance of the, you can say, NPAs, you can say, there seems a logic that that a bad bank could be established for that purpose, right? A bad bank could be, you can say, established for this, right? So बेटा, in the present scenario, आप देखो, जब हमें क्या चाहिए होता है, जब हमें ग्रोथ चाहिए होती है, जब हमें इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को तेज करना होता है, तो बेटा हमारे पास क्या होता है, ये दो चीजें होती हैं जब हमें ग्रोथ चाहिए होती है, राइट? एक तो पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है, दूसरी होती है बेटा, यू कैन से, प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट, राइट? So as far as the private investment is concerned, when the economy is running into slowdown, then you can say, private investors also become, you can say, pessimistic, and they hesitate to come forward to put more money into the economy because all is not running well in the economy already. So that is why in such a scenario, right, the governments have to come forward, because what is required, we need to strengthen our banks so that they may be able to, you can say, provide more credit. We need to strengthen banks, right? And banks को strengthen करने के लिए हमारे पास क्या option है बेटा? One option is banks को strengthen करने के लिए, right? One option is बेटा capital infusion into the banks. एक option तो ये है government के पास, कि गवर्नमेंट बैंक्स के अंदर कैपिटल इन्फ्यूजन करे, right? One option is that. And the second option we can say is that bank can go for a recovery of NPAs. Bank can go for recovery of NPAs, right? Recovery of NPAs, right? And तीसरी चीज क्या होती है कि प्रमोट मोर सेविंग्स। मैं आपको सभी चीजें लेता हूँ, प्रमोट मोर सेविंग्स, right beta, promote more savings. So beta, this is the, we can say, third thing, right? And this is the third thing. right? So beta इस situation में क्या है कि it is not possible for the government to convince the public to, you can say, save more, because the economy is in slowdown. If government conveys a message to the citizens of the country that for the nation's sake, right, you consume less and save more. So in that case, aggregate demand will come down in the economy, and already economy is running slow. There is the demand crisis in the economy already there. So beta, this option is not possible in this situation. Then beta, second option is the capital infusion. So in the present situation, as far as the capital is infusion, is concerned, beta, this seems difficult, seeing the government's poor fiscal health. So we can write it that this seems difficult. It's difficult, right? Seeing the government's, right, poor fiscal health. And you know that bad bank को refuse करने का एक कारण ये है कि government is not in position to invest in at this junction, right? Poor fiscal health, and moreover, the government has already, you can say, right? The government has already put in, you can say, capital infusion. Put in capital into the banks to the tune of about 2.5 lakh crores. Government has already put it there, 2.5 lakh crores, right? So it means the government is not in capacity to spend more, to, you can say, afford more for the capital infusion into the banks to promote their liquidity. So this is the point, right? So then beta, if this is not possible, then beta, then what can be there? Then second is the recovery of NPAs, right? For recovery of NPAs, we can say there are the asset reconstruction companies for recovery of NPAs, right? Asset reconstruction companies. So beta, this you can say, as far as the asset reconstruction companies are concerned, it also seems difficult, because number one, the size of the asset reconstruction companies is small, and they are not ready to, you can say, acquire the, you can say, very larger sick units, financially sick units, right? So that is why the recovery rate remains low, even in this era of ARCs also. This is the one point, right? And because ARCs have the financial constraints also. And second thing is that you can say 15% down payment condition is there, due to which the ARCs are not in capacity to, you can say, purchase more assets. Second thing is this, right? ARCs are not in capacity to purchase more assets, right? And better third better thing is that recently Supreme Court has given a decision that, you can say, in the recovery of loans, ARCs cannot exercise the force on the borrower, right? अगर मैंने किसी के पैसे देने हैं तो वो मेरे ऊपर अपनी कोई फोर्स नहीं यूज कर सकते. So that is why you can say ARCs के लिए, according to the Supreme Court's decision, they can follow the legal proceeding. Okay? And if they follow the legal proceeding, then you can see the profitability of the, you can say, ARC will be decreased. So better, that is why, right? So there is problem that, you can say, ARC may come forward in this scenario, right? And moreover, ARC, you can say, for the resolution of some, you can say, sick resolution for some, you can say, this non-performing asset, right? So ARC has to, you can say, seek permission from the sanction from the, we can say, right? Sorry, banks have to go for sanction of the board first, right? To sell some NPA to the ARC, right? if the, you can say, amount is more than 50 crore, in that case, the banks have to go for the board's approval. So board's approval also takes time. So it means this is a slow process, right? If it works even. And the next thing is that bad bank, right? So the only thing which remains now, that is the bad bank, establishment of the bad bank, right? So the remaining option as on today seems this option only, right? Bad bank option. In the current scenario, it is visible, right? So this is the next post, right? And you can say the next is banks, you can say, inability to run a unit which is already financially sick, right? Banks inability to take over and run a unit which is already financially sick, banks inability, right? So beta, this point has already been discussed, right? As we have discussed in the case of that, you can say, Jhabua power plant, right? In case of Jhabua power plant, what was there? Because the lender means bank, right? The lender was not, first thing is the borrower was not able to operate, or return money to the banks, right? Return money to the banks. वो ready नहीं था, वो कर नहीं सकता था, because it was not in that position. Okay, and then beta, ultimately what was there? That bank should take over the unit, means lender, right? Bank should take over the unit. This was the second thing, right? Should take over the unit, run it till an appropriate buyer is not, okay, buyer is not found. So second option ये होती है उनके पास, are not found, right? And beta, the big problem is that the banks don't have a spare capacity. The banks don't have spare capacity, or we can say expertise to run such a commercial venture. Okay, to run such a commercial venture. Okay, to run commercial venture of this nature. So बैंक अपने काम ही कर सकती है. बैंक अगर हर जगह में जाके काम करने की कोशिश करेगी, है ना, डिस्टिलरी में, कॉटन एंड टेक्सटाइल में, स्टील एंड आयरन एंड स्टील में, राइट, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में, तो बैंक्स के लिए डिफिकल्टी आएगी, ठीक है, टू रन ए कमर्शियल वेंचर ऑफ दिस नेचर, राइट. सो बेटा, this is the next thing. So banks don't have the spare capacity for this, right? So beta, ultimate option which remains with the banks now is, you can say, to sell away, right? To sell away, right? The, you can say, the financially sick unit. So this is the only option which remains with the bank, right? And beta, the bank is under compulsion. Bank's liquidity and profitability is getting affected. Debtor is not in position to run it, right? So if the banks would make more delay, then what can happen? The assets will be further depreciated and the banks would be able to get less. So that is why sometimes banks are not able to find a good buyer. This is the problem, right? Or the good buyer may not have the capacity, right? And the bank cannot give advance to a good buyer, you can say, to purchase its, you can say, own assets from the bank. So that is also the restriction from the Reserve Bank of India. So better, that is why, right? So there seems only one solution in this situation, that is to establish the bad bank, which is the government bank, and banks can sell their NPAs to that bad bank. That bad bank would be in capacity to run the, you can say, unit also at its own. It will be having the, you can say, adequate financial resources also. It will be having the, you can say expertise of that type which is required there also. So beta, that is basically important, right? So that is why we see that we can say there is need for, and you can say such type of we can say this what is said that bad bank, right? So हमें ऐसे bad bank की जरूरत है, तो हमने ये बात की है, right? So the next point is now cons, right? So now we will shift on the cons. कि ऐसी कौन सी चीजें हैं जो हमें कहती है कि नहीं बैड बैंक से हमें क्या लेना है, राइट? सो ऐसे कौन से फैक्टर्स हैं कॉन्स जो हमें अभी रोक रहे हैं बैड बैंक से, कॉन्स कौन कौन से हैं, राइट? सो कॉन्स में पहले तो हम पॉइंट नोट कर लेंगे क्या हो सकते हैं. फर्स्ट इज कैपेसिटी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, capacity of government. First is this thing, capacity of the government, right? Second thing is the problem of price discovery. Problem of price discovery. I will discuss these one by one. Problem of price discovery. This is the second problem. Problem of price discovery, right? And the third point we can say here is that you can say lack of right, lack of we can say buyers in the market. Lack of buyers in the market is on today, so this can be the next problem, right? And next issue जो है ये ARC model didn't remain successful in India, didn't remain successful, right? So ARC model didn't remain successful in our country, right? So beta, these are the various points, right? So first thing we can say that capacity of the government, right? So as far as the capacity of the government is concerned, yeah, so because establishment of a bad bank would lead to additional financial burden on the government, right? Establishment of a bad bank would lead to additional financial burden, burden on the government, right? Burden on the government, right? And the government is already reeling under the financial, under the fiscal stress due to the economic slowdown, and you can say COVID-19. Okay, so that is already a problem there. So बैंक पैसा कहाँ से ले, sorry, government पैसा कहाँ से लेके आएगी इसके अंदर money input COVID-19, right? So this is one problem, right? So reality doesn't allow the government to accept it, right? And the second important thing is that problem of price discovery. Price discovery means what can be the ideal model or formula to determine the price between the bad bank and good banks, right? अब क्या है बेटा प्रॉब्लम कि मैंने एक बैड बैंक बना दिया, ठीक है? लेट्स सपोज बेटा दिस इज ए बैड बैंक, राइट? मैंने ये बैड बैंक बना दिया, ठीक है? एंड ये है बेटा मेरे पास सर्टेन यू कैन से गुड बैंक, और ये जो गुड बैंक्स है बेटा ये गुड बैंक है, ठीक है। अब बेटा इस बैड बैंक में, सॉरी इस गुड बैंक में बैड बैंक को एसेट्स बेचनी है। सो अब एसेट का रेट कैसे डिटरमिन हो, इसके लिए अभी तक हमारे पास कोई सेट स्टैंडर्ड फार्मूला मॉडल नहीं है। सो यही प्रॉब्लम एआरसी के साथ रही है, क्योंकि एआरसी जब तक आप कोई स्टैंडर्ड नहीं बनाओगे, कोई मॉडल नहीं फिक्स करोगे, कोई आप फार्मूला नहीं डेवलप करोगे, तब तक बेटा क्या रहता है, buying and selling between the officials of the banks and the, you can say, ARC, and in that case there creeps in the you can say risk of the corruption also and other things also. But here also the same problem will occur, because if there is no formula that you can say a bad bank will purchase the assets from the good banks at, you can say, the price bad bank would like. Okay? And obviously bad bank will also focus on its profit like the commercial banks. And if the bad bank will start focusing on its, you can say, focusing on its profitability, so then in that case better commercial banks will be, you can say, again loser, and the liquidity problem would not be resolved. So this is the another point which we have discussed. And the third point which we are going to discuss, lack of buyers in the market. It has been seen that there are no buyers in the market who are coming forward. There are no buyers in the market, right, who are coming forward to purchase the bad assets. Who are coming forward to purchase the bad assets. To purchase the bad assets, right? Particularly when the economy is running into slowdown. At that time, ऐसा नहीं होता कि लोग आए और आपको बोलें कि जैसा भी है हमें दे दो, ठीक है? We will take care of everything. Nobody would like to take risk, and this is the reason, due to the lack of the buyers even. This is the reason that you can see ARCs also could not achieve success in this thing, right? So better, this is the next problem, right? So beta, if the buyers are not there, then beta, how can the bad bank, how can establishment of bad bank could provide solution to us? Okay, that will happen beta कि हमने किया क्या है, हमने बेटा एक नई एंटिटी बना ली है, ठीक है, और बेटा एक एंटिटी हमारे पास पहले थी, ये दोनों गवर्नमेंट की एंटिटीज हैं, ठीक है। इस एंटिटी को रिलैक्स करने के लिए, ठीक है, हमने क्या बोल दिया, इस एंटिटी को रिलैक्स करना था, और हमने बेटा क्या किया, इस एंटिटी को हमने बोल दिया कि आप भी परचेज कर लो उनसे जो भी बैड लोन्स हैं, ठीक है। सो बेटा रियलिटी में what is going to happen, it is mere transfer of the bad assets from this bank to, you can see, this bank, right? And सब कुछ गवर्नमेंट का ही है, ठीक है। सो बेटा that will lead only to, right? So बेटा that will lead, we can say, only to the mere transfer of assets, right? Mere transfer of assets without any proper solution, right? Mere transfer of assets, right? Without any proper solution. Without any proper solution, right? Without any proper solution. So beta, actually then what will happen, this exercise would create, and you can say this exercise would create an, you can say, additional expenditure, right? So beta, what is this? This is mere transfer of assets from one entity of the government to the, you can say, other entity of the government, and that too by incurring additional expenditure, and that too by incurring the additional expenditure. वो भी बेटा हम additional expenditure करके कर रहे हैं, right? Additional expenditure of what? Of running, maintenance, right? And management of the bad bank, right? So बेटा एक से दूसरी एंटिटी को ट्रांसफर करने के ऊपर भी अगर हमने you can say lakhs of crores rupees spend करने हैं, तो then what is the logic in that, right? So this is the third point which is there. The next ARC model did not remain successful. Earlier, we have that experience that earlier there are, we can say 29 ARCs are there. If there are 29 ARCs, then you can say we can do some rationalization, and we can say strengthen these, you can say private ARCs, right? Instead of you can say creating a new burden on the government, right? So beta, let these ARCs should work, right? These ARCs are also legalized entities, right? These ARCs have also come into establishment under the you can say SURFISI Act of 2002. So beta, when these ARCs are there, then what is the need of, you can say, putting more money into the, you can say, bad bank, right? By just taking, you can say, right? You can say for the sake of only the transfer of assets from the good bank to bad bank, right? So beta, that is there, right? So beta, इसके अंदर क्या है बेटा कि यहाँ भी गवर्नमेंट लूजर है, ठीक है, और बेटा यहाँ भी गवर्नमेंट लूजर है, दोनों तरफ गवर्नमेंट लूजर है. So beta, that is why I think there is no logic, ठीक है, seeing this to, you can say, introduce to establish a bad bank instead, right? So beta, this is the point, right? Yes, Anjana.
हाँ जी, नमस्ते सर.
नमस्ते.
सॉरी, लेट बहुत हो गई.
कोई
अभी
बात
आई
नहीं.
थी घर.
चलो कोई बात नहीं, राइट? बस आप, मुझे लगता है बस नमस्ते बोलने के लिए ही आए हो.
अच्छा कंप्लीट हो गई.
Yes. Okay. So next is next is the concluding part, right? So next is the concluding part. As far as the concluding part is concerned, so because your conclusion should be good, right? So your conclusion should be the summary, and that should tell the way, you can say, forward also of the problem, right? So your conclusion may कुछ नया हो, है ना? सब introduction वाला ही repeat नहीं करना. So that is important here. As far as the concluding part is concerned, so we can say that the fundamental problem, right? Fundamental problem, you can say, is fundamental problem is something else. It is not the NPA itself. It is not the NPA itself, right? So basically, क्या है? NPA is only a symptom of the problem, and we are again going to treat the symptom, okay, as we are habitual of treating the symptoms, right? And burying the problems underground, right? And NPA is a mere symptom of the problem, right? So this is my version, mere symptom of the problem, right? And by treating the, you can say, symptom, by treating the symptom only, you cannot find it. By treating the symptoms only, you cannot find a permanent solution of any problem. A permanent solution of any problem, right? So problems would, right? Problems would keep on recurring, right? Would keep on recurring. Problems आपकी reoccur करती रहेगी, right? Recurring. So the right, recurring. And today we are right, you can say, discussing the proposal of bad bank, or we are in the mood of creating the bad bank, right? After few years, if the problem is not solved, then after few years there will be proposal or demand for another, you can say, super bad bank. So the thing will go on like this, right? And there will be no end to the problem, right? So the need is to, right, address the fundamental issue, and finding the solution of that fundamental issue, finding the solution of the basic problem or the fundamental problem, right? So that we may get rid of the NBA's problem, right? We may get rid of the NBA's problem, right? So beta, the fundamental problems are where number one, right? We need to you can say think that we need to think that why NBAs do occur, right? We need to think that why NBAs do occur, right? Why NBAs do occur, right? So beta, corporates maybe you can say feeling difficulty in in running successfully, in running profitably in the present business environment, इसके अंदर बेटा लॉ भी आएगा, कंपटीशन भी आएगा, लेबर लॉज भी आएंगे, एवरीथिंग आएगा, ठीक है? मैंने एक ब्रॉड टर्म यूज कर ली है, इन द प्रेजेंट बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट, okay? And after diagnosing the whole case, after diagnosing the whole thing, right? The whole thing, attention must be given to create, and you can say efforts must be put in to create a conducive business environment for the right, for the corporates, so that that should not happen again, right? This is the one thing. Is it clear, beta, up to this point? This is the one thing.
Totally, sir.
Okay, and the right, and the second important point is that you can say interference, a political interference in the working of the banks. Political interference in the working of the banks. Due to which the banks sometimes have to lend to a you can say have to lend to a borrower, okay, of poor credit rating also, okay, poor credit rating also, which if there were no political pressure, if there would be no political pressure, okay, bank would not advance, okay, bank would not allow. So ऐसा भी होता है, political pressures in banks के अंदर, right? And third important thing is that you can say third important thing is that you can say we can say that you can say third important thing is that a political interference and priority sector lending is also important thing. Priority sector lending, क्योंकि priority sector lending में जो गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स के अंदर जितने पैसे बैंक्स देते हैं तो वो ऑलमोस्ट बैंक्स के बैड हो जाते हैं, सभी के सभी लोन्स, राइट, ज़्यादातर लोन्स, ठीक है? जैसे पीछे एक स्कीम लेके आए थे, मुद्रा स्कीम, राइट? मुद्रा स्कीम में क्या था कि जो हमारे स्मॉल बिजनेस एंटरप्राइजेस थे उनको 10 लाख रुपीस का एडवांस देना था, So वो scheme थी. So that is also considered by some experts as you can say a new source of the non-performing assets, right? So priority sector lending की जो compulsion है banks के ऊपर, that is also a problem for the banks, due to which the NPAs you can say do occur in the banks, right? This is there, and this is there, right? And is it clear? This is there, right? So why NPAs should occur, na? And the next thing is beta क्या है कि there is मतलब interbank competition, which I think needs to be discouraged in the country, right? Interbank competition is there. On the one side, we don't have the savings, right? On the one side, the banks are facing the problem of deposits, right? Less deposits, don't have savings. And better on the, we can say, other side, we have created a competition. No doubt, due to the competition, the customer services have been improved by the banks, and the variety of the financial products has also increased. But the negative impact of that is there, that you can see due to the competition, what is happening? The lending rates are reduced, the lending rates are coming down, and the borrowing rates and the deposit rates, we can say, and the deposit rates are increasing because every bank wants to take deposits and lend further, right? So due to this reason, what is happening? The margin of the banks is narrowing down, right? Due to this, the margin of the banks is narrowing down, right? Margin is narrowing down. So if the margin is narrowing down, then the banks would not be able to, you can say, make it, you can say, right? This properly, right? Banks के लिए sustain करना मुश्किल हो जाएगा. So बेटा, this is the next problem. And बेटा, moreover, हमें क्या चाहिए? We need the structural reforms in the economy, right? Structural reforms in the economy. Until and unless structural reforms are there, this problem would not be solved. So better just establishment of a bad bank, right? Because better the main thing is that if we go for the structural reforms, then better what will happen? It will boost the economic growth, right? And better if the economic growth increases, right? And if there is all well in the economy comes out of the recession slowdown, then better what will happen? The corporates will also be earning well, right? And if the corporates will be earning well, then you can say automatically the corporates would be able to repay their, you can say, loans, and we can say the NPAs would also come down. Okay? And the next important thing is that that you can say corporation tax in India is very high, right? Corporation tax rate, which was 30%, and last year the government has reduced it to, you can say, 22.5%, right? And the corporation rate is very high. Okay? And apart from that, there are, you can say, surcharges also. Okay? And better apart from that, there is, you can say, one more compulsion on the banks, on the corporates, that you can say they have to, you can say, spare some of their profits, right? They have to spare some of their profits for, you can say, social activities also, right? Anjana, is it no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right, for the social activities also. So beta, that is why, right, this all, you can say, is affecting the liquidity of the banks, right? And the corporates are not able to repay the loans, right, to the banks. So beta, the government needs to, you can say, treat the fundamental problem due to which the, we can say, bad loans exist there, right? And mere the creation or the setting up of a bad bank is not a solution, right? Until and unless the fundamental problem due to which the NPAs occur is not, you can say, addressed, till then there will be no proper solution. So beta, this is the actual, you can say, the point, right? So so you need to conclude it in that way, right? So beta, इसमें क्या है कि आपकी इंट्रोडक्शन में भी नॉवेलिटी है, आपके बेटा कंक्लूजन में भी नॉवेलिटी है, तो आपने कन्वेंशनल से हट के आपने किया है काम, तो बेटा ऑब्वियसली यू विल फेच, right, you will fetch more you can say marks. Yeah, the examiner will give you can say extra reward, no, for that thing. So this is there. Now if anybody wants to ask anything, you can please. Right, I'm ready for taking your queries. So Anjana, today we discussed the topic of your bank.
Okay, sir.
Right? Should India have a bad bank? Right? What is your opinion? Should it be there?
नहीं सर, नहीं, बैड बैंक का मतलब आपका यही है ना कि एनपीए वगैरह जो है वो होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए?
एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी,
ऑफ कोर्स,
पब्लिक
एसेट वही जो जिनको हम बोलते हैं व्हीकल, स्पेशल व्हीकल्स।
यस।
हाँ बिल्कुल, स्पेशल व्हीकल्स तो सर होने चाहिए क्योंकि वो सपोर्ट करेंगे हमें हमारे मतलब वर्क में। जो भी हमारे एनपीओ हो रहे हैं रिकवरी में हेल्प करते हैं और मीडिएटर का काम करते हैं, तो वो बिल्कुल होने चाहिए सर।
No, asset reconstruction companies are there, then what is the need of the bad bank?
Sir, I'm not understanding the point of bad bank. कि आप bad bank किसको कह रहे हो?
Okay, I'm just telling you. बेटा bad bank ये है कि इंडियन बैंक्स एसोसिएशन है जो, इन्होंने रिसेंटली एक प्रपोजल सबमिट की है आरबीआई और सेंट्रल बैंक को, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को, राइट, के मतलब create a, you can say, bad bank which is known as the you can say public sector, right, assets, which is known as the public sector assets, you can say rehabilitation agency. ठीक है, जिसको हम
ये इसमें सर ये इसलिए होना चाहिए आई थिंक क्योंकि जो एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज है उनके चार्जेस जो हैं वो ज्यादा होंगे और खर्चे को कम करने के लिए, और पब्लिक सेक्टर में मतलब वो ज्यादा इंटरेस्टेड हों, क्योंकि जो उनको ज्यादा कमीशन मिलेगा वो प्राइवेट बैंक से मिलेगा, तो फिर वो एसेट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनीज उधर ज्यादा ध्यान देंगी, तो पब्लिक सेक्टर में ध्यान देने के लिए ये शायद होना चाहिए आई थिंक।
Okay, but the government has denied this, and even the Reserve Bank of India is also not ready for this proposal, right? Ready to accept this proposal, right? So beta, actually we have discussed it in detail, right? And I will put this lecture on YouTube, right? So you can, right, so beta you can access it from there, right?
तो मतलब आपको क्या लगता है कि नहीं होने चाहिए? आप ये क्या मतलब?
Yes beta, after going through the whole lecture,
गवर्नमेंट ने कहा है कि नहीं होना चाहिए। ठीक है,
yes, beta, after going through the whole lecture, you will automatically you can say come to the point, right? Okay. So do anybody wants to ask anything? Tell me.
No sir, it's clear.
Okay, it's clear. Okay.
ਨੈਕਸਟ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਸਰ ਕਿ ਬੈਡ ਬੈਂਕ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ, ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਪੂਰਾ ਗੋ ਥਰੂ ਹੋਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ।
ਸਰ ਮਜ਼ਾ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਪੂਰੇ ਲੈਕਚਰ में।
Okay, thank you beta. So beta, now I'll
definitely see it sir. क्योंकि मुझे क्यूरियोसिटी हो रही है ना कि क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए।
Okay. So beta, I'm winding up today's lecture, ठीक है? So keep on giving the feedback please, right? And okay, so beta, one more thing,